All right. Well, we are just going to give it a few minutes as people continue to filter on into our little virtual space here and everything. But in the meantime, if people wouldn't mind just kind of introducing themselves a little bit. So your name, where you are located in the state, and then also just one word to describe how you're feeling today. So whether that's, jazzed or excited for our meeting today and to hear about some other prevention news, or you're just feeling a little bit groggy since it is a Monday so far, just starting off the week.
And that is in the chat. I know we have, I love seeing everyone pop up on my screen, and hopefully we'll have some time for folks to also share and unmute and show their faces to us as well. But as we introduce ourselves, it might be easier in the chat. And for those of you who are just joining us this morning, we are recording. So if you are turning on your video, just know that that will be part of the recording. But we love to see your face as we're having our conversations this morning.
And Julia is sharing that they're feeling energized. I'm happy to hear that some folks are feeling like that. I definitely am feeling more energized after having my morning coffee so far. That's very important for me.
Well, Hunter, I see we're already at 10:02. Maybe we'll go ahead and get started today. I'm sure we'll have a few more folks trickling in, but we have a lot of good stuff to get to this morning. So let's jump right in. So good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Hopkins. I am the Sexual Violence Prevention Program Director with the Minnesota Department of Health, and MDH co-hosts these Sexual Violence Prevention Network meetings with MINCASA. So Hunter, do you want to introduce yourself?
Of course. Thanks, Mary. So good morning, everyone. Like Mary said, my name is Hunter Beckstrom, and I'm the Prevention and Sexual Exploitation Specialist at the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
We also want to give a shout out and a thank you to the rest of our teams who help make these meetings possible. I see Jude Foster here from MINCASA. Marissa Regay is on the call from MDH. And we have a new team member joining from MDH today that I wanted to make sure we had a chance to also do a quick introduction. So Julia Tyndall is the new Sexual Violence Prevention Program Planner with the Minnesota Department of Health Sexual Violence Prevention Program. And she'll be helping out more and more with these SVPN meetings, as well as the e-news that you're all signed up for. Julia, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
I would love to. Thank you, Mary. I am so thrilled to be here. That's why I'm feeling super energized today. I see some familiar faces and a lot of people who I'm just really excited to get to know, and looking forward to doing this really important and exciting work with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Julia. So for those of you who might be new to these meetings, we host 4 quarterly SVPN meetings each year. We used to do these in St. Paul, and then we'd go on the road and go around to all over Minnesota. But for now, we are virtual and in Zoom. So thank you to MINCASA for hosting us in your Zoom channel. And we really have 3 goals that we're trying to get out of these meetings. And first and foremost, we want to build understanding around the primary prevention of sexual violence. And when we're talking about primary prevention, we're talking about those proactive steps that we can take to prevent violence before it occurs in the first place. And the most effective prevention solutions create a culture that does not tolerate violence of any kind. Culture is constantly changing all around us, and we can impact it for the better by changing those practices, policies, and environments in the places where we live, learn, work, and play. So during these meetings, we talk about a wide range of topics, all related to sexual violence, and we bring it back to prevention.
Of course, but that also doesn't mean that we forget about victims and survivors, because at the center of all of our work are the voices and needs of victims and survivors, and that is whether we are doing direct services, systems change work, or prevention as well. And all of these pieces are equally important in our work, and on all levels, really need to exist to be able to move change forward while also still supporting those most impacted by sexual violence. And so, as Mary said, with our 3 goals, our second goal is to share resources related to sexual violence prevention. And so we will share some resources during our meeting today and also share additional events, resources, and updates on the SPVN mailing list, which happens to go out every 2 weeks. Additionally, the Minnesota Coalition Against Sexual Assault also shares prevention resources on the MNCASA prevention email list, but we also do encourage you to sign up for some updates from Prevent Connect in order to stay connected about what's happening on a national level for prevention work. And then finally, as always, our presentations are recorded just like today, and they are archived on MNCASA's website to access following our meetings as well.
So our third goal, Monday morning, our third goal is all about connection. So we know that connection looks a little bit different as we're doing these meetings on Zoom, but I love seeing so many faces popping up, seeing some conversations happening in the chat. We really do hope that our meetings today provide an opportunity for you to learn about someone new, maybe connect with someone who's doing prevention work that you find exciting or something that connects to what you're doing in your professional or personal life. So as folks are chatting in, thank you so much for sharing with us and sharing how you're feeling. I will say, I think we had a few people say this. I'm feeling really energized just from some of the warmer weather that we had this weekend and feeling ready and excited for spring. So that's what I'm bringing into the meeting this morning.
Agreed. And I think it's really energizing to see that folks are feeling a little bit more lighthearted and stoked. It sounds like some other people are saying. So it definitely sounds like we woke up on the right side of the bed this morning. So very excited to hear that coming from everyone, and then also to continue hearing from some of our presenters today. But with that, please feel free to kind of continue to make some connections in the chat and then outside of this space today as well, since it's so important to be able to have some of those connections and build that network for the sake of prevention across the state of Minnesota as well. But before we actually get started, just wanted to share a couple of housekeeping requests in our virtual space today. So if you could begin with keeping yourself on mute throughout our presentation unless you are speaking. However, if you are wanting to share verbally in our space, you can use the raise your hand function on Zoom. And that is because if we do happen to have a few people wanting to speak, we do ask that you would use this option, and we will then call upon you to unmute yourself. However, as both Mary and I said at the beginning, we would really love to have people share their thoughts, comments, or questions throughout the chat today as well. So please don't hesitate to do that as well. All right, and with that, I think we can move on to the next piece of our presentation today. And just to kind of center ourselves and to offer a little bit of a background context for our presentation, that is because with the My apologies, I must have been muted for a second. But just kind of to offer some context to how we want to start off our presentation today, that was that MNCASA actually received some funding from the Minnesota Department of Health through the RPE funds. And we actually then had the opportunity to offer some prevention mini grants to our various member programs. And the purpose of these mini grants was to really provide training, support, and funding for organizations to then build their capacity to implement some sexual violence prevention within their communities. And we really aim to support a spectrum of activities. So this could really include staff time for that funding, to purchase some training and implementation costs, programming materials. They could purchase curriculum, and then also purchase speakers for fees, and then so much more. And we really wanted to be as flexible as possible as to how organization would really how different organizations would really bring different primary prevention strategies into their own communities. And in the end, we were actually able to fund 5 different member programs for upwards of a total of $35,000 in prevention funds to uplift community efforts in reducing sexual violence. And with that, so for today's quarterly meeting, we really wanted to take the opportunity to recognize these organizations and their prevention efforts. And just to briefly introduce these 4 organizations, so we actually have 4 of those organizations here out of the 5 that received this funding. These organizations are Canvas Health, WISE, which is the Women's Initiative for Self-Empowerment, the Winona County Primary Prevention Project, and finally Fumulani. So throughout our time today, each organization will share a little bit about the work and services they offer, and then also how they actually use the funds from the prevention mini grants as well. And again, please do not hesitate to ask questions or make comments throughout the chat. I know that our folks and representatives from each organization would really be thrilled to share a little bit more about the work that they've been doing and more about their organizations as well. And so with that, to get us started off, I want to pass it on over to Tara Klein, who is with Canvas Health.
Hi, everyone. Oh, excuse me. Good morning. I'm going to share my screen so that I can share with you guys a little bit about the work we've been doing at Canvas Health. So one sec. Can you guys see that, Hunter?
We can see it, yes.
Perfect. And can you still see it?
Correct, yep.
Okay, perfect. So I work with Canvas Health. We provide, we're a rape crisis center, actually, that's a little bit unique. We're instituted in a larger mental health agency, which is pretty uncommon. Usually most advocacy groups, are standalone, but our executive director, 35 years ago, made the decision to try and implement this program as a part of Canvas Health as a whole. And it's just, that's the way it's been in Washington County ever since. So our program is called Abuse Response Services, and we are currently the only program in Washington County to provide victims and serve victims of sexual violence. So we have the 24-hour crisis line. We also respond to the hospitals, and we respond to police interviews. We do legal advocacy, support groups. We have short-term counseling. We provide help with safe at home applications. We also do what is one of my biggest passions, community education. So we are no cost. We absolutely don't ever want cost to be a barrier. Even in the, counseling services that we offer, we certainly don't have any charge when we're working with victims and families. Currently we serve 13 plus, so anybody over the age of 13. However, we have worked with younger, there's been, certain situations where it's been appropriate for us to provide advocacy to younger kids. And then we do a lot of education, of course, around sexual assault, teen dating violence, human trafficking, all of the things that, we're hoping to prevent before they're happening. So our staff currently, it's a small group, but we try to have a large reach. So there's myself, and then I do have a specialist, which I'm currently hiring for. So if anybody is interested in doing prevention work, that's what this position is specifically about. So our specialist is kind of my second in command, but really focuses on our prevention programming. So I started in this work as a prevention person, so doing lots of work and prevention in the schools and all of that. And so now that I get to supervise a program, I can make the decision, which I'm so excited about, to really focus on prevention, because I am a firm believer that prevention is a crucial piece of, how we prevent future harm to folks. Then I also have 5 on-call sexual assault advocates that work overnights, weekends, bless their hearts. they're dedicated, amazing women and men that, absolutely are kind of the core of everything when you get that late night call and somebody needs help. So that's who we are at ARS. So I was really excited to get this mini grant fund, even though currently we're in a transition process with our prevention person, because I have one of my goals, one of my visions is to get our schools trained on and have access to materials that would allow them ongoing prevention education opportunity, right? So it's not just like we come in once a year and say blah, 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 and then we leave, and it's kind of not like an integrated thing, right? I mean, I love Flash. That's something that we've been working on for several years with the schools in our area. I recently had a great opportunity to speak out with some folks in Forest Lake about Flash. They're kind of retooling their sex ed curriculum, and I just really encourage them to take a look at this and help them get trained and provide them these materials. So we would love to train, high school staff, middle school staff, so that this can become implemented as a core piece of their education. I think it's a great curriculum. And of course, it can also be modified and worked on, but just so that it's an ongoing process. We're also, I'm not sure if folks are, oh, go ahead.
Hey, Tara, can
Yeah.
you just tell us, for anyone on the call
Yeah.
who might be unfamiliar with Flash, what that curriculum is?
Yeah, so Flash it's a curriculum out of Seattle, Washington, I believe, and it was developed by a few social workers. And it's a violence prevention, it's a sexual assault prevention curriculum alongside of some medically accurate sex ed. So it encompasses kind of all of the awesome things that we're looking for in terms of prevention work. So it really, it's got stuff on consent, it's got stuff on gender identity, it's got stuff on harassment, pregnancy, healthy relationships. It talks about abstinence. There's just a plethora of things that they have put into this curriculum so that they can provide, or we can provide, really, comprehensive education on this subject. So it's really a good curriculum. And Family Tree does really great training with Flash. If you ever have the opportunity to get trained in with them or, go to a training with them, they're amazing. Their Flash educators are incredible folks. So the other program that we spent a bit of money on with this grant is called Second Step. And Second Step is an emotional social learning program that for K through 5 that covers a lot of different things, but they do have one specific area that's called child protection. And that is essentially kind of a introduction, depending on the year. So it goes kindergarten through 5th grade. And it's an introduction to consent and violence prevention for our little kids. It's really comprehensive. I think it's a great program, a great curriculum to provide to schools. And we have been working with Stillwater elementary schools, to get Second Step implemented into their yearly calendar. They do some Second Step curriculum with like social emotional learning and bullying, but we'd like to add on to that with this child protection unit. So talking about, early consent, how to talk about if somebody doesn't want to hug, or if somebody doesn't, want to be touched, what do you say about that? Talking about naming body parts correctly, talking about how do you tell somebody if somebody's done a harm to you? So just pretty basic age appropriate prevention. And I think oftentimes our littles get left out of that because we really focus on the high school and the middle school and think that consent and other things only apply to those folks. But there are some I know that it's not Jacob Wetterling Center anymore, but I'm not drawing the name of it, but they do great work around, early childhood sexual assault prevention and all of that kind of stuff. So that's something we've been working on with Stillwater for a couple of years now. With this grant, we were able to purchase some more of the kits that they need to do this. They're spendy, right? So we want to try and take that burden off of the schools so that we can be able to provide them with this information and what they need going forward. So another thing that we do a lot of work with, and this is more in the high schools and in the middle schools, is group work with our young people, right? We like to have teen groups. We want to have teen-led groups. We love it when teens kind of take control of this and create events and other things in their school. So there's some really good workbooks that we've used through New Harbinger, which is a group of folks that some therapists and other people that create books, but they have some really great workbooks around consent. And so we really wanted to incorporate that for our youth, giving them those materials. So that was one of the ways that we used our funding. That way we, can hopefully educate and create student leaders and give them access to materials that they can use and share with others, and, just be able to not have to pay for it, right? So that things are accessible to them. We also were able to get a subscription to an online platform, which is a very new thing, but we felt like this might be a cool way to integrate technology because of COVID with our groups and with our students. So we've created, we've used Basecamp to create a portal, essentially. I'm still learning about Basecamp. It's a new thing for me too, but we have the ability to create different groups. And in those groups, we can house, discussions, we can have questions, we can do, put things into files. We can just have a really easy way to connect. You can use it as an online app. And so the folks in our schools that we work with can, click onto there and they can get access to our materials. We can set up meetings with them and just do all of that really kind of cool stuff. So I'm excited to see how that over this year works. And if it's successful, hopefully we can continue to do that and maybe use it in other areas. So that was kind of a new neat thing that will hopefully help us with maintaining prevention work if and when COVID is, strikes back up. Let's fingers crossed. We also really want to receive training. One of the things that we paid for was to receive training to implement Love 146, not a number, the training that focuses on trafficking. It seems to be really a really good comprehensive, really victim-centered training. And so I would love to be able to help schools integrate that as well into their curriculums and to have us come out and do, the workshops that Love 146 provides folks. So again, just really wanting to incorporate into the community and into our school system these really good curriculums that we feel are, important and kind of the best way to reach our young people absolutely about these issues that, around sexual violence that we really want to prevent. And so basically I don't know if anybody has any questions, but really our bulk of our funding was spent on materials. So being able to provide schools and community folks with these curriculums, with these trainings, with other workbooks and other ways to have access to materials to help with violence prevention. I can't see my chat, so I don't know if anybody is asking questions, but I also wanted to leave my information. So if anybody had any questions for me, that's my direct number and my email. And, I love talking about prevention. I'm such a huge advocate of it just because I think, we've been working really hard for a long, long time to try and find ways to prevent sexual violence. And I think that I'm a firm believer that prevention work is such a key piece of that. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Tara. I think, the work that y'all are doing at Canvas Health is really awesome. And of course, that important aspect of being able to offer some of this healthy sexuality consent, healthy relationships, all of that type of work, really amazing for youth, but obviously how difficult that has been recently, kind of during COVID, of course. And I don't, obviously, if folks have other questions, please share that in the chat. But I was just interested, Tara, if you've gotten any feedback from youth, like how interested they are in some type of these topics, these curricula, any information you might be able to share.
Oh, yeah.
There.
So we've had, our prevention program was really stagnant. It's been about 4 or 5 years now. It was really stagnant, but we really started to be aggressive, I guess is the best way to put it, about 4 or 5 years ago, and really make our presence known. Washington County is an interesting place. It's kind of it's not like the regular Twin Cities Metro, I guess I'll say. It's, so we really were like, this is super important to us and we want to do it. And as soon as we were able to kind of break through and get into the schools, COVID has obviously decreased our numbers, but we've had, just overwhelming success, upwards of presenting to, 6,000, 7,000 students, in a year, just incredible success with it. We've had long running support groups in several of the high schools. We've even had some of our high schoolers go on to become sexual assault advocates, which is amazing, people that we've worked with prior years. So I would say, I know that youth want this stuff. When we come and we talk about it, there is, an immediate response of our young people saying, well, this happened to me too. What can I do? Or when we offer them the opportunity to be a part of, like Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and they can do an event in their school, or just, I think they're really wanting that ability to do that. So, as long as we're engaging, I think we absolutely are going to find engagers, right, that are going to want to do this. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I just really liked that statement, like the engagers, like really spending that time and investment with youth is huge.
Oh, huge. Yeah. And they're so incredibly creative. And we've had students just do also, like plays that they've put on. Just so many things that they are creative and come up with. So yeah, it's good work and it's important work.
Of course, that is absolutely correct. Well, I'll leave it open for another minute if folks do have any questions for Tara. I know that you had put your information in the slide and everything. Is it okay if you would share
I'll throw that in the chat too. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And I know hopefully folks have been noticing that as our presenters are talking, trying to share some different resources about different curricula folks are talking about, and then of course other people in the chat sharing different resources and curricula that they use for themselves and for their services. So that is wonderful as well.
Yeah, I love seeing that folks are talking about curriculums for our younger folks too. I think, like I was saying, I think oftentimes we kind of forget that even at the kindergarten level, we can be talking about consent. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and even more exciting, we're actually going to be able to talk about that a little bit later today too. So thanks for bringing that up, Tara. All right, and with that, and of course, people continue throwing in comments and questions in the chat, but next I wanted to pass it over to Pamela Zeller, who is with WISE, which stands for Women's Initiative for Self-Empowerment.
Good morning, everybody. So WISE is a organization, we've been around since 1995. And we work exclusively with immigrant and refugee girls and female identified students, grades 6 through 12, and then adult women. Our prevention program has 2 different kind of initiatives under it. One is funded by MDH, where we really heavily incorporate the arts. So every year we do a music video that the kids get the words, they get the beat, they do the storyboard, they perform, etc. We also do whiteboard animation videos with them, and it's all about sexual violence prevention messaging, quarterly poster campaigns. They participate in Denim Day, And they get trained on our 7 series of workshops on healthy relationships, which also kind of ends with recognizing sexual violence. And then they're trained as active bystanders using the green dot model. Then our other focus is under an OVW grant. It's school-based. And so we're partnering with Washington Technology Magnet School, which is a middle and high school, over 2,000 students, Transforming Generations, which is a Hmong community-based DVSA organizations providing the outreach to victim survivors and providing crisis intervention, support services, et cetera. They've got a youth group going. And they're also going to be training St. Paul Police on responding to youth, especially youth who are immigrants or refugees or LGBTQI youth, with at least half of the grant focusing, excuse me, on stalking and cyber stalking, as well as dating violence, sexual assault, and trafficking. They're also going to be training in Ramsey County school resource officers on the same thing. And then we are doing the active bystander intervention training with students at Washington Tech. And as part of the grant, you have to have a coordinated community response team. So it's the school, Transforming Generations, and us. And we're reviewing the district's policies and protocols and practices and responding to gender-based violence, and reviewing them from a perspective of trauma-informed, culturally responsive, especially to immigrant and refugee youth and LGBTQI plus youth. So that's kind of our prevention piece. We used our mini grant, which was wonderful to get, short timeline, but we did it. And we used it to create a plan, a strategic plan and materials for outreach in the Oromo community. We already do an active bystander intervention training green dot model in Oromo language. And we've held 2 of those for the community. They've been very well received. But since the pandemic, we just weren't getting youth to participate in our healthy relationships and Girls Getting Ahead leadership program, which is all about, psychosocial development, protective factors like doing well in school, life skills, financial literacy, and of course, gender-based violence prevention and intervention. So we're creating a series of workshops, parent workshops. So the first Monday of every night, we're holding a family night at Oromo community in Minnesota. They have staff there that will interpret in Oromo. It's for families with any age children. We have a meal, we have games, we have activities, and we have a presentation. So we're doing a parent workshop, and our parent encouragement specialist, she's finishing her PhD in family and marriage therapy. So she's very skilled. She's Somali, and her focus is really working with refugee families. So she's developed these workshops that look at every age group of kids. So prenatal, infant, attachment, looking at children, looking at adolescents, looking at the ACEs study, talking about trauma. How do you support your kids? So we created a video with infographics for each month to promote, okay, this month, this is what's going to be happening and why it's important for families to learn this and to come. And then we did a video to try and recruit more girls. So Oromo Community in Minnesota is going to be providing transportation, which has been a huge issue for us. When we're at a school, well, the kids are already there, but this is having kids come to a community center, right? So they're going to be providing transportation. The driver in the van, we got to pay the gas, and I really hate that gas is going up now. That's twice a week. So we created this video, and we had a mom and a daughter. She's 12, and that's our age group, 11, 12, 6th grade through 12th grade. And it's in Oromo, but it has English subtitles. So I'm gonna, hopefully, because I'm really bad with technology, but hopefully I can share this with you guys. Okay. Let me know if you don't see or hear it. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, Pamela. If you could pause it briefly, I think the volume went out for me. Are you sharing the sound through your computer?
You know, I don't know any of that stuff, so I just am playing it and I'm hearing it. So I don't know how do I, you know what, let me go grab Paku. She knows all of this stuff. Hang on.
All right, apologies everyone for our technical difficulties. I know I've certainly been there an incredible amount of times.
I love your comment in the chat, Hunter. I feel like the way that Pamela talks about their work, I can imagine the spectrum of prevention and, you know, thinking about the work that they do impacting students and impacting parents and teachers, as well as thinking about looking at those policies in the school. I'd love to hear more about how that goes when they get to that.
Sure.
Thanks, Pamela.
Okay, Hunter, Paku's here and you can explain to her what's happening. Right.
Hi there. Is it possible that y'all can share this sound through your computer?
The sound of the video?
Yeah.
Yes, you can usually, let me see if I can find the function on my own computer.
Pamela,
Usually
you're
when-
sharing your screen right now?
Yeah.
And the
Usually
video,
when you hit share screen,
The audio went out.
so it was playing before and then it didn't work. Is that right?
usually when you hit share your screen, you can then hit share your audio through the computer rather than playing on the speakers of your computer, just so everyone can then hear.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna stop share and reshare again.
Of course.
There's someone in the waiting room.
So when you hit share screen at the bottom left of the window that pops up, it says share sound. And then once you do that, you should be all set to go.
Pamela, I need your password to approve sharing the sound.
Password to my computer?
Yes.
Okay. Can you restart it? Can you restart the video? Okay.
I'm seeing smiles. So
Okay.
thank
Let's
you
see
so
what-
much.
Okay.
Come on. I feel like I saw somebody.
Hi, Aya.
Hi, Nari. Akka Mayatiya. Programming girls get ahead in leadership after school in Kekantore.
Barere ture. Had the video lalde ka college campus ka Twin City kesa jeru. One can bat ejal eveta. Dia ufu Metro State University field trip yana demar.
Bareda akka tiddu jalatti program sannan muddata. Sagalee isaa hedduu namatti tole Nari. Friendiin tante ayyaan tolle dhufu jirti.
Ayaan tullee nu barti. Friendly baay'ee achitti garadde.
Bareedaadha. Waan biraa maal si gargaaran achitti?
Waan biraa kamuu nu gargaaranii yaani snaakii nu fidanii achiin homeworkii kennu explainii goone. Homeworkii explain hoo understanding goone explainii goanii sitti.
Hedduu bareedaadha. So ayyaa waan biraa hoo maal gootame?
Waan biraa ka goonu seef irraa skuula irraa seefii taaneetiin akka sammuu waan nu himan akka skuula irraa seefii taanuu inni social media irraallee akkasii ammoo waan himan akka healthy relationship spotting ammoo abusive relationship waa akkasii akka difference bennu akkas nu himan akka social media irraa ijoolleen ammoo waa badaa ammoo ka akka waa badaa hin laalle so waa ijoollee ammoo laaluu qabaatanii so achirraan ammoo college ammoo field trip irra deemna akka college irraan bennu akka sportii goonee akka hoo guddattee waa ta'uu feetu waa bajatii waa akkasii nu himan.
hedduu takka proogiraama isa hedduu jaalladhaan illee waan seeftii iskuulaatii fi koominiitii keenya keessa jiru isin barsiisuun waan namatti tolu bitta. Osoo ani irraa jaalladhu bitta proogiraamni kun proogiraama firii warra rifuujii fi immigiraantii ta'e ijoollee middle school irraa haga high school jiran kutaa 6 irraa haga kutaa 12 jechuudha. Akkasii sanneenii fi akkatti girls get head in leadership jedhaniitiin ammaan tan irra ijoolleen didiqoo akkasii kuni waa'ee leadership akkatti baratan akkatti iskuulatti jabaatan social media irraa waan bada adda addaa irraa akkatti dhaabatuu danda'an barsiisanii bitta. Achumaan ammallee bakki isaa Oromoo community bakka safety place bakka itti amanu daa'imman teenya fiduuf itti amanu jechuudha. After school program achi dhufuun keessan hedduu takka natti tola hedduu na gammachiisa. Firoondonni tiyyatuuwwan illee itti himee hojii akka achi fidan abdii qaba. Hedduu takka waan namatti tolu proogiraama bareedaadha. Proogiraamni kun proogiraama ammaan tan irra ijoollee yaangii akka kan keetii kanneen eebjuu jiraa ka ufafoo takka takkaan steepiini jala ammaan tana qabanii barsiisan ufafoo jiraatitti differentii guddaa godhaa fi bitta hedduu takka qarqaaraan ufafoo jiraatiif.
Anillee friendiin tiyyaa invite godhee namni maraaniyu hin jaalladhan.
Hedduu takka gammadee an sign up si godhu proogiraama kanaaf friend tiyyanitti illee akka sign up godhan himeetiin haa sign up godhanii ijoollee ofii.
Galatamayyaa.
Dubartiin leadership irra jabaatu qabattanii.
Jabaatu qaban.
Akkas.
Waldeen Hawaasa Oromoo Minnesota amata sadeen dabraniif Girls Get Ahead in Leadership and Health Relationship Program kan jedhamu waldaa keenyatti dhufanii tajaajila akka kennan Wise wajjin dalagaa turee jira. Sagantaan kun ammas itti fufee jira. Haa ta'u malee sagantaa kana haala gaariidhaan irra deebinee gulaallee ijoolleen keenya wanta isaan barbaachisu akka argatan irra hojjetaa jirra. Wanni isaan kana keessa argatan practical skill kan jedhamu yookaan mootu
Okie dokie. I could barely hear it, but I don't speak Oromo, so I just read the English anyway. But it was, it was a very natural kind of conversation. And our whole thing is, we have to have the parents' permission to have the girls attend the program. So it was targeting not only girls to get interested, but also their parents to go ahead and to sign them up. And of course, you can't say, here, come learn about sexual violence prevention. That's not going to fly in immigrant and refugee communities. So it's about, how do you help your daughters succeed? And they're going to get these leadership skills. And look, it's a really safe place that's known in the community. So we're really hopeful that that's going to help us recruit more students. We also created a strategic plan with our money. So, we worked with a cultural specialist and also staff at Oromo Community Minnesota. And so what we've done is we've taught them how to use Buffer, where you can set up your social media posts, months ahead and they'll automatically post, right? So that they can set up the new promo for every new parent workshop that's going to happen each month. We're connecting to them so they can share the stuff we post. So that like for Denim Day, in April, or for Domestic Abuse Violence Month, or Teen Dating Awareness, so that they can also incorporate what we're posting. We're doing outreach. So we already did some outreach in person at Highland, which has a larger Oromo student population in their middle and high schools. And then they identified 2 other schools that they thought would have a lot of students that are also close enough for transportation. So that's Central High School and Heritage Academy, which is a Somali charter school. And then we're going to be partnering with Pumalani, and Pumalani is going to train 2 women from the Oromo community to do the coffee circles and to use that as for healing and for community outreach and education. So that's kind of globally, what we've come up with. They're also very interested in doing things with their boys. So we're pulling together a group of, we already provide our services at Sejong Academy, which is a Korean immersion school, K through 12 that has primarily Korean students actually. And so they're interested in doing something with boys. They've done some things, but we're going to pull together a group of organizations serving immigrant and refugee boys who have an interest in doing some similar kinds of pieces with us. We developed our 7 workshops that are really geared towards girls, but certainly they can be modified. And we're looking for some other curriculum. There's a program in Colorado that's funded under the Engaging Men and Boys OVW grant that is willing to share curriculum and do some mentoring. So we're also trying to build on that. So does anybody have any questions or comments? I don't know, City, did I miss anything, City or Eamon? Do you guys want to add anything?
No, Pamela, you covered everything.
Okay. That was Eamon. Eamon is our new Healthy Relationships Program Coordinator because City shifted over to the OVW grant at Washington Tech.
Pamela was I'm City is actually speaking.
Oh my gosh, it did not sound like you. I'm so sorry, City.
Me.
I wasn't
No
looking
worries.
at faces talking, so well, that's what City sounds like. So any other questions? Oh, we're glad to share our curriculum with anybody. We also did, as part of our CCR team for the OVW grant, we have a training on mandated reporting that was excellent. Liz Richards, who is an attorney, is the former director at Violence Free Minnesota, put the training together. And it was really good because it helped distinguish, who's like a 24-hour, 7 days a week reporter. What does confidentiality mean, especially in terms of mandated reporters? It's really good. And we've shared it with Sexual Violence Center, with CASA. And if anybody else wants that and wants to use it in their trainings, they're free to do that. If MinCASA wants to use it, that'd be fine.
Thanks so much for all of that information, Pamela. And before we jump into the next presentation, I see that Comfort had their hand raised.
Yes, thank you so much, Ms. Pam. I just wanted to say I'm so excited about this work that you're doing. I think the younger girl in me, who's a survivor, would have wanted a space like this where I would feel safe without the stigma. And I really love how transformative the work you're doing, because I understand my community very well. If you bring up sexual education, it's not gonna go anywhere. So I love how it's very holistic in that way. And then the young women and men can then feel comfortable. So thank you so much.
And I'm super excited that we're going to have you training women in the Oromo community, because coffee circles are also a tradition in the Oromo community, and to train them in the facilitation, how they use it as a healing around sexual, child sexual abuse survivors and other gender-based violence. I'm super excited about that, and they are too. So.
Likewise, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Pamela, for sharing. And as I had mentioned in the chat, it's awesome to see that so many folks are already making some of these connections. And speaking of that, it looks like Caitlin had put something in the chat. So Pamela, whenever you're able to connect with them, that would be fantastic. All right, well, jumping into our third group here, I just wanted to introduce both Helen Bagshaw with the Winona County Primary Prevention Project, and then also Crystal Heggie with the Advocacy Center of Winona. And one moment as I share my screen here. All right, Helen and Crystal, take it away whenever, and just please remind me to move forward with the slides whenever I'm supposed to do that. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Helen Bagshaw, and I'm with Crystal this morning to talk to you about the Winona County Primary Prevention Project. I just thought we'd start off with this gorgeous picture of Winona, and would welcome any of you to come and visit us anytime. I'm so happy to be here because we can just connect with everybody in Minnesota and share, what we're doing down in this little part of the state. So I'm going to kick it off, and Crystal, you if you've got any comments or questions or anything, you join in with me. So a little bit about myself. First of all, I am the chair of PPP, and I'm also a nurse educator and a nurse at Winona Health. I've been in America 20 years. You might notice by the accent I am English, British. I'm originally from Yorkshire before anybody puts it in the chat. So we'll get on with what I want to talk about today. So if you want to move on to the next slide. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about PPP then. We are a small but mighty group. We have this logo which sort of just puts it all into perspective for me, that the lotus flower symbolizes rising from a dark place into beauty and rebirth. And Winona State student did this logo for us maybe 5 years ago, and we kind of put it on all of our information, and people recognize our messages and things on billboards and pamphlets when they see this. So a little bit about PPP then, if you want to move on to the next slide. We've been around since 2008. A few people got together. We're a volunteer group, but we had volunteers, we had health and human services, we had people from the schools, professionals, all sorts of people got together and wanted to do something about primary prevention. And every year we are updating, tweaking, changing, just like our environment, our mission statement. And this is our 2022 mission statement, that we are primary prevention of sexual and domestic violence. Again, we're a small group, but we provide education. We want to change the norms and practice, and also we want to educate our policy and legislators in Winona County. We are, like Hunter said at the very start, we're focused on primary prevention. And our goal is to ensure that our community is safe for everyone. If you want to move to the next, great. I know this is a bit small, but we started off with maybe a couple of people meeting around, in a cafe in Winona, thinking what we could do. And since 2008, we have grown to over 20 agencies and organisations who, we share information, we share resources, and it's just a way of everybody having a part of and all volunteers. And you can see from that group that it's a great group. If you want to move on to the next one. So what do we do? What's this PPP all about? And what are the things that we try and achieve? So I did say that we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We from just a group of people, it suddenly needed to develop more so that we could maybe apply for grants, and we could do things if we had a little more money. So becoming a nonprofit in 2019 was huge. Our action plan is mainly key communicators, which we send out all the information to. We have a speakers bureau, like me. Hey, I'm not a speaker, I'm a nurse, but going out and meeting with community people and telling them about how passionate we are about primary prevention, it really stirs up people, and also how we can change community norms. So our plan for 2022 is, again, providing primary prevention education, influencing policy and legislation, and strengthening our coalition memberships in partnerships in Winona County. Our funding is $3,000, so it's not a lot of money, but we do a lot with that money. Some of the things that we've done, we sponsored Darkness to Light training, and we've bought workbooks for that training. which we offer free in the community. We do a Hands of 4 competition, and you can see on our billboard that we did a competition in November, and we had over 300 entries. And these were posters with computer graphics. These were kids with pieces of paper thinking about what they could do to prevent sexual and domestic violence. And with half of our money that we got, which we get from Winona County, we put up 9 winners on billboards. And these kids saw their pictures, the winners saw their pictures on a billboard in Winona, and it was just amazing. It was so great. And I wish if we had more time, I would show you every 300 of those winners. It was great. And again, we get our community partners involved, like the local bank gave a $50 gift card to each of the 9 winners. We had it in the paper, and we did lots of things with that. Other things that PPP does is community presentations that we know the state, out in the community. We team with the local university for Sexual Assault Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month. One of our big partners is with Crystal and the Advocacy Centre. We write letters to the editor. We go on Know Your Neighbour Day. We make ribbons. We do coffee sleeves. We go to local hotels with police department to talk about sex trafficking awareness. When we became a non-profit, if you want to move to the next slide. When we were meeting, somebody said, hey, Community Foundation have got a grant. We didn't know how to write a grant, but we got together with our group and we did get a grant in 2020, and we bought 225 body safety books for preschool children. We went to our local bookstore. We had volunteers come. We consulted with the Advocacy Centre, who helped to make a handout. And through volunteers, we delivered all these books to local daycares, libraries, schools, going around not just Winona, but some of the towns like Lewiston, St. Charles, so that you know, they could share these books. Again, if you yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, we also held a couple presentations for daycare providers in order to educate on how to use the book, what happens if they got a disclosure, what resources. We had a handout there, but we also held Zoom presentations so that all of the daycare providers in the county could access individuals with their questions.
And again, isn't it great to share a book with a child? Especially, I think one of the earlier speakers said that you know, to start our children at kindergarten learning in an easy, comfortable way about some of these issues, and it was such a great way to connect with the community. And so we had some other books that we thought, yeah, we would love to share those because we got such great feedback. And then in December, I saw this grant. We saw this grant for Mincasa, and again, we're a small, tiny little group, but we got together and we said, let's try for it. Let's see if we can secure this grant and if we can share again with our community. So if you'd like to go on to the next slide. And we have these books that we were successful with the grant. We consulted again with our advocacy centre and said, yeah, we talked about body safety, but let's talk about gender. And again, let's be more inclusive and talk about and offer this book in Spanish too. So I know, Crystal, you were a big part of choosing the books, you and your staff.
Yeah, well, we first saw Introducing Teddy at a drag story hour that was held here in Winona. So we had last summer, and during that drag story hour, they read the Introducing Teddy, and it was just such a wonderful, beautiful book and so simple to understand that I shared it with Helen, and Helen also agreed that it was just such a great, wonderful book. And that they offered it in Spanish was also a big benefit to that particular choosing that particular book. So we decided that we definitely wanted to go forward with ordering that and delivering it to all of the daycare providers and schools who offer programming for young people. And and then we also went through, we had a whole list of other books that my staff and I reviewed, and kind of one that rose to the top was this other one, Let's Talk About Body, Boundaries, Consent, and Respect. And we thought that that was a really important piece to kind of go along with a lot of what the other presenters have said about it. It does start much younger than, teens. It starts, as soon as they can talk and walk and understand respect for one another, and without using those particular words sometimes. So we just thought these are really important books to have circulating in our community and in our agencies.
So our next step is, rounding up our volunteers. We have the books. Crystal has and her staff have designed another handout. We'll have a Zoom, we'll do our media, we'll do our talks, we'll share it with the rest of the group. And I'm just really excited to get these books out again, to connect with our community. And I know, that there's, wonderful things that are going on, and just hearing about the other people, other groups and their grant as well. This is just books and just being able to share something positive with our community. And if you want to go on to the next slide. We have our meeting today, and I can't wait to share with the rest of the group how we got on today, that we were able to tell all of you a little bit about the Primary Prevention Project, and to maybe inspire and excite other groups to that you don't have to be a big, you can just start small with a couple of books, but it can just have such a huge impact. If you've got any questions or you'd like to connect with us, I'm happy to share our information. I don't know if you've got anything else that you want to say, Crystal.
Well, I would just, so I'm Crystal Heggie. I'm the Executive Director at the Advocacy Center of Winona, and we're a dual agency providing to the entire county sexual and domestic violence services. We have been around for about 40 years, 41, I believe, and have always been engaged in system to change prevention, and then obviously doing direct services to clients. And so it's been really great to, since I've been here since 2019, to work with Helen and Winona County Primary Prevention Project to deliver some of these projects that, yes, the small volunteer group has been having a big impact. Some of the other things that we're kind of working on here, and for Sexual Assault Awareness Month, we're going to have a presentation for masculine identifying folks on hearing no and saying no. We're going to have two presentations, one geared to youth and one geared to community members who are not specifically, I guess they could still be in the same age group, but more community members that are not youth students. And then we're also, we're working on support groups within the schools, mentorship programs that foster healthy relationships with adults, specifically for LGBTQIA identifying individuals, to connect struggling youth with an adult to support their development and navigate the world as a sexual minority. We also are doing prevention through housing outreach to ensure that youth do well in their schools and improve their quality of life, providing that housing stability. And then of course our educational presentations to teach students in the community to respect each other's identities and have open conversations about consent to reduce sexual assault and intimate partner violence. So we're working, we're actually going to be hiring for a community outreach advocate to push these programs further into our community with another grant that we just received. So I have taken lots of notes and I'm very excited to hear all the other work that other agencies are doing across the state, and hope to connect as we build our programming outward as well.
All right, well, wonderful. And thank you so much to both Helen and Crystal for sharing a little bit about their organizations and the work they're doing. And it's going to be very exciting to see not only offering the opportunity for these books and education to happen, but also seeing how y'all are going to implement this moving forward too. So thank you, Helen and Crystal. All right, so finally moving on to our last participant, and that is going to be Comfort Dando with Fumulani. And Comfort, do you want me to share the video right away?
Sure, I think it might save us time.
Okay, if you want to introduce yourself while I get my screen shared and everything, that would be wonderful.
Sure, yeah. Yes, good morning, everybody. I always present internationally, so I'm like, good morning, good afternoon, based on where you are, but I think we're all in Minnesota, so I'll skip that part. But my name is Comfort Dando, and I am the founding executive director of Fumulani, Minnesota African Women Against Violence. I wanted to just highlight a few things about our program. It is survivor-led, it's culturally specific, and I'm a storyteller, so I'll tell a little bit of a story. I entitled this part of the presentation a Me Too story before the Me Too movement started. So I am a survivor of childhood sexual incest. About 5 years ago, I managed to then connect my dots of my personal pain to my childhood trauma, and how I was continuing to kind of like attract the same vicious cycle. I want to share this not to be self-absorbed, but I know that I represent a lot of the little girls in my community who are now grown women who were violated. Sexual violence is really rampant in the African immigrant community because of the way our families are structured. We live with an extended family. And so just to give you some context, for example, my mother at age 63 told me after I had come out with my story of survival that she had been violated by her own brother. So she was 63 when she told me this. I was 25. And then that marked the beginning of our work. So the last 2 years, through the support of the Bush Foundation, we managed to do some healing circles, and also Minnesota Women's Foundation. We've managed to do a lot of healing circles, a total of 52, each about at least 6 weeks, reaching over 4,950 African immigrant women from different cultural communities. And from these healing circles, we realized that we had brought up a lot of unhealed trauma from childhood sexual abuse. So it's like the moment anybody shared, I shared, the next woman shared, the next woman would always say, me too. We realized that in our community, we haven't even started the work yet. There was silence around childhood sexual abuse. And those women who were abused as children were raising children whom, if they came to them complaining about being sexually violated, they didn't know how to heal. Just last week, I was talking to Miss Pam, witnessed something. Daughter comes to mom, I was present, and mom totally shut the door up. She didn't want to hear it. And I knew some of the roots of that. And so the other topic we've also been discussing is female genital mutilation or female genital cutting, depending on who you talk to. Some people don't want to call it mutilation, but cutting. So I won't go into detail with that. As far as our organization is concerned, this year marks our 5th year. So it is, like I said, it's survivor-led. I am the founder. And our work is primarily within the African diaspora, people of African heritage, but it also includes Afro-Latina, it includes Caribbean. I want to say it is basically, we reach out to people who've been disproportionately marginalized or underserved. So we've been seeing a lot of indigenous women that we work with as well. And then I think what's peculiar about Pumalani is that we understand that our lives are not in silos. So we work at the intersection of immigration justice, financial justice, racial justice, and those all come to play if we look at how the violence against women and girls is rooted in patriarchy, white supremacy, and racism, to name a few. So I am going to share this video, and then I'll go back to what we use this grant for, so that it will make sense. Hunter, I don't know if you're ready.
Yes, thank you for sharing that. And if it is, if folks can't hear, please let me know right away.
For so long, I kept a painful secret. I can still feel that freezing cold water that ran from the mountains down to the floor of the thick forest. For 6 weeks, 10 of us girls sat in that water every morning. A black herbal mixture was continually applied to one of the most sensitive parts of my body. These herbs were meant to ease the pain as the elderly women pulled my labia minora. Each time they applied the substance, I burned. My nanny encouraged me to continue the process. My future marriage depended on it. She reminded me each morning, men prefer matinji to be the length of the middle finger. I kept at it, but each week the burning increased. I have not heard other women from Zimbabwe talk about being in pain from this, but surely I can't be the only one. At the time, I did not realize that this process would cause me a lifetime of excruciating pain and recurring infections. Only after 16 years, as a result of the complications from giving birth to my son, did I finally connect the dots with what happened to me as a child. I sought help. I looked for a therapist. Most could not understand. Even those aware of female genital mutilation were not familiar with what had happened to me. They didn't know it takes different forms, and that in my case, it's a type 4. Since they couldn't identify it, they did not want to deal with it, or with me, so I kept quiet. I suffered in silence until the day my friend told me about a surgery that could ease my pain. I am healing, but I wonder how many young women from my part of the world have endured this scarring. How many faced complications during childbirth? How many are dying? Before we can stop it, we need to acknowledge it. We need to talk about the harm it causes. We need to name it.
Comfort, I think you're still on mute.
Yeah. So that is one of the some of the work that we've been doing that's breaking the silence around topics that are not discussed of. When this video came out, I had a lot of backlash from my community because it's a shame thing. People don't want to talk about it. So what did we do with this grant? We realized that we needed to break silence, and speaking amongst ourselves as just women was not going to do it. So we needed to bring in men who disproportionately are perpetrators of violence. So with this grant, we did a lot of engagement of men, and we had to recruit men to speak with men. So we hosted circles not only men, but we also hosted circles, like more like healing circles, but more listening circles with women from communities that we have not really reached out to. For example, the Francophone, French speaking, we have a huge Francophone community here in the Twin Cities. But when we talk about African immigrants, it's usually Liberian or Somali or Ethiopian, the ones who are large in numbers. There are a lot who are at the margins. And some of the cases we've been getting in our community are from those communities. So we did do a lot of, we did do circles. I wanna go here. We did reach out to over 4,300 members of our community based on the algorithms of, we did host them virtually and some in person. And I think for the purpose of this grant, we really wanted to start the engagement and start to break the silence. And we continue to look forward to continue to work with both the MDH as well as Minkasa to just continue the conversation. Because in our community, as Ms. Pam said earlier on, for us to even start to engage children and their parents, there's a closed door. But then if we start talking to the parents first, then I think that is a fundamentally important part of prevention. It attacks the roots, opening up the conversation with men. I think I shared some of this with Hunter and Tim, but we had some really amazing engagement. I'm not gonna pull it because I don't have a lot of time, but we had a lot of amazing engagement from men, from some of the lives that we did, African immigrant men actually engaging in the conversations and actually commenting and asking questions, which is something that I have not historically experienced. Those topics are just not discussed with men. And so that is what we used this grant for. With that, I will leave it for questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Comfort. I was hoping, and again, if other folks have questions, please want to share those. But I just wanted to know if you could share the reach that you had with some of these events, because I know, Comfort, it was pretty amazing how many people you did in fact reach.
I was trying to pull up my statistics. I have so many things open. Just bear with me for a moment, and I will share that.
In Comfort, I just want to let you know you're getting a lot of praise in the chat. Folks are really impressed with the work that you're doing and what a leader you are in your community. So thank you for sharing this with us today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm feeling the love. Thank you. I think that's what keeps me going. It's really hard work, but thank you. Let's see. Oops. So I'm just trying to pull up. I don't know if while I'm looking for these numbers, if somebody can, if anybody has questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I have a quick question. Can you hear me? This is
Yes.
Tara. Where do you, so are you mainly working in Hennepin County or are you kind of all over the metro?
Thanks, Tara. Good question. We are all over the metro, but also based on where people are located. So we have the two largest African immigrant communities in Hennepin County, Somali and Liberian. So that's it reflects on our work and who we touch. But we're all over the metro, even in rural Minnesota. If we have sometimes we have our calls from out of town, and we do help if it's an African immigrant person who's being referred to us. We work with them. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay, great.
Thank you. Well, it looks like I might not be getting what I want here.
You know, I think we can go ahead and keep moving. And if you find those numbers, you can share them in the chat with us, Comfort. But I want to give just a big thank you to everyone who presented today for sharing the really important and creative prevention work that's happening across Minnesota. It's these meetings are so energizing to get to see who's passionate about prevention and the ways that they're finding to be creative and reach their communities, and really start these important conversations about prevention. And what a great collection of really different approaches to prevention that we got today. And I know in the chat, we've already been seeing some ideas, some connections being made, some light bulbs going off maybe as we're thinking about new ways to connect and promote prevention. So thank you. We do have 10 minutes left, and we always like to open the floor and leave room for announcements. I know we had a lot to go through today, and there's probably a lot on your mind, but I do appreciate the folks who presented, sharing that there's some, job openings coming up related to prevention that folks might be interested in. Maybe you have a meeting or an event coming up that you'd like to share. We welcome you to put that in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and share with the group here what's going on and what's coming up in Minnesota that we should know about. Well, I can get us started. I just put in the chat so everyone's aware. The Minnesota Office on Justice Programs hosts a crime victimization conference each year in May, and proposals are due tomorrow. So we always love to see some sexual violence prevention related proposals at that conference. And there's some really great stuff that they've been doing recently virtual as these conferences continue to be virtual. So encourage you to consider submitting a proposal if you I think we have 4 great proposals today from the work that was just shared. So we encourage you to think about that. They are due this week, though. Any other job openings, announcements, events? And if not, we can also continue to ask questions to our presenters since we do have some time still with them. Sarah, I see your hand up.
Hi, everybody. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hey, well, I'm just so touched to be present today and hear all the presentations about sexual violence prevention. I'm executive director of a small organization started recently called Maria's Voice, and we're working on primarily prevention of domestic abuse in the Twin Cities. And so there's just so much overlap in what I'm hearing from everybody. And I just got a lot of really wonderful ideas and a lot of synergy around our efforts and what I see happening there. The push for early education in kids, the early consent education and things like that. And our work is really geared toward community education. We started the Maria's Voice Prevention Network, and we're trying to engage pillars in the community. So that's cities. The city of Maple Grove has taken our pledge network and has taken our pledge and gotten our prevention program out to their 500 plus employees around, like what you said, comfort. We have to name it. And we know that so many victims of abuse don't have a name for it, right? They don't know how to accurately describe and say what's happening to them. And many times we hear from survivors that it's after they've escaped or been able to get out of the abuse that they start to fully understand what's happened to them. So we're really working on creating that common language used to describe it accurately amongst prominent community members in the community, right? So we're cities, businesses, having this be available to employees, but really broad education. So that's our focus. I just wanted to do a little hello and so grateful to be here amongst people all working toward the same thing and, healthy relationships and safe homes. And that's our efforts too. So thanks for letting me speak for a minute.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Okay, see there's some stuff being sent into the chat as well. Oh, thank you. Oh gosh, I'm sorry. I'm struggling to keep track of the chat now. Thank you, Erin, for sharing the new prevention advocate at SVC. Glad to have you here on the call.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I'm not able to say a whole lot because I'm also managing the crisis line as well. So I'm trying to juggle both. But I just wanted to let everyone know that I just got onboarded with Sexual Violence Center here in Hennepin County a couple of weeks ago. It's been a lifelong journey of mine to get involved in this kind of work, specifically knowing that in Minneapolis, St. Paul, that this sort of movement started here. And so I feel like it's great to be part of the ground zero work that we're all doing. So thank you all.
Thank you, Erin. Oh, and I see Comfort. Did you find the numbers? Do you want to share?
I was just getting carried away with everybody sharing. So yes, so actually total number, we reached up to 19,300 members of our community. And the last gathering that we had, as I sent on there, we actually had Artika grace us with her presence for an opening. That was the one we did with all men. We had 4,300 people tune in. So that's really a remarkable number, given the discomfort with the topic. And then I just pulled up here some of the comments. I had a lot of men, asking questions like, what about women? It's about time we start we start treating women as humans, not property. In the African community, women have rights as men. This was really refreshing for me to read these comments coming from men. We had another gentleman saying, very interesting and truthful conversation. I hope a lot of men are listening to this and take steps to change their ways towards women. Thank you very much. I think sometimes when we talk about conversation being a game changer, in our community, we're very oral, historical traditionalists, and conversation is really where the change starts. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to more and more of this in our community. Thank you for letting me share.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I also see Haley, thank you for sharing in the chat a kind of request and a welcome of resources or partnership around working with a group of high school girls. High school girls sounds like they are all survivors looking to affect change at their school. Thank you for sharing that. And I already see a couple of people responding who'd like to be connected. So please be sure to get that in the chat, write down people's emails. And Hunter and I are also always happy to kind of act as a connector too. If there was someone who you want to get connected to, let us know. We can figure out who that was and be sure that we can make that connection.
Mary, I have a question. Do we have a mass email that goes, do we have like an email that goes for the specific group in case, or we have to connect individually? I don't know, I'm curious. I don't know.
That's a great question. So there's a couple different things. We have a few different email lists that we use. So MDH has the Sexual Violence Prevention Network email list, which you cannot reply to. So that's only MDH can send out emails to that group. Bencasa has a prevention email. Hunter, is that an email that folks can reply to or send emails out on?
So we do have a prevention listserv for some of our members and everything like that, where people can kind of ask questions. We can kind of talk generally about some ideas, curriculum, whatever folks are interested in as well. But again, that is only for some of the members that we have, but it would be really interesting to broaden that out to have a listserv for everyone. So I'm wondering if that could be a possibility that we can look into, but for some folks, that's certainly a start, but would love to be able to make larger networks outside of that as well. So definitely something we should all consider to work on.
And I will say, so after this meeting, I will send out an email to everyone with some of the resources and information. I can send out contact information. I usually send those emails using the blind copy, just so that folks have the ability to opt in if they want to share information. But I'm happy for your feedback if you would prefer that I just send emails to everyone so everyone can email each other. I don't want to do that without everyone knowing. So that's kind of how we've been managing the SVPN. But I really like that feedback, Comfort. So maybe that's a conversation that we'll have as we're thinking about how to best facilitate these connections with everyone. And I am going to throw into the chat. Oh, thank you, Hunter. Just put into the chat the feedback form. I will also send that in the email. Please let us know what you thought about this meeting. We're always looking for feedback. We're always planning the next meeting. So if you have ideas or thoughts, please let us know. We really do like to take that into consideration as we're planning our meetings for the year. Well, I see it's 11:30. What do you think, Hunter?
Yes, of course. Just want to say one last thank you to everyone, for the participants, everyone sharing and connecting in the chat. I really enjoyed hearing so much from everyone in this call today, not just the presenters. So please, would love for folks to stay in connection. Again, as Mary said, we would be happy to make some of those connections between folks as well. And please don't hesitate to reach out as well. But yes, with that, I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of the day, and I hope to see you all at our next quarterly meeting and continue to make some more of these connections together.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.